There's something we often don't think about when we think about staff in Christian schools and private schools, and that is this idea of span of care. We have a bunch of really relatively autonomous leaders who like some space to lead. You might have some administration that wants some tighter marching orders, some clear direction. But when you consider all of the staff in a school that is established enough to have a big enough staff to start worrying about this, there is this concern of span of care. How do we make sure that everybody gets cared for? Often we kind of skip over this and just think that the principal is going to have a relationship with every one of the staff, and that's not a fair assumption or a fair thing to do to a principal, to be honest, or to the staff to leave the relationship just kind of to chance like that, where they're not going to get the support that they need to thrive. And so when you think about this idea of a span of care, we always want every individual in the organization to feel known, to see how their work impacts the whole team, and know how to contribute. So there are 4 things I think that are necessary to a healthy team and really even to a healthy individual, and that is targets. So every individual, every person on your staff, whether they're teaching or administrative or support, they have to have clear targets, and they have to have targets that they can see the organizational targets, and they can translate how the work that they do impacts those organizational targets. You might think of them as goals or metrics or any of the above, but I like to think of them as targets. This is something we're shooting for, and we're trying to get really good at hitting the bullseye. And so in order to do that, we have to have everybody kind of on board and aligned to that. So the second thing that we need is good habits or systems. These are the regular things that we do that help us kind of march towards hitting those targets. Every leader needs to know what those are. Every team needs to have good habits and systems. Third thing is strengths. So this is an idea of everybody brings something different to the table, and are their strengths being deployed at work? That's a really important question to ask. Is that happening? And how do you know that? And how do they do a better job of advocating for themselves? How does the people on their team advocate for them and say, you know what, I noticed that you're really good at this. I'm wondering if you'd be willing to help the team out and do this. And then finally, the last one is evaluation. If you have targets, you got to work through your systems, put people in the right spots, and then you got to evaluate, are we hitting those targets? How's it going? You got to have all 4 of those things within an individual's participation on a team or an entire team. All 4 of those things have to exist. And so when you think of the organizational chart of a school, you might enjoy that it's a really flat organization, which is great. Lots of accessibility to the principal, to leadership. You do want to make sure that span of care still exists. And so that might mean that you have 4 people that are on maybe a teaching team or a professional development team, where one individual is kind of the lead person there, that is ensuring that everybody can see the line of sight between what they're doing and how it's impacting the school's goals, their targets, that is making sure that regular habits of health are happening within that team, that they are speaking into one another and calling out the strengths of the people on their teaching team or on their team in general, and calling out those strengths and helping deploy those strengths in the right areas. And that's sitting down with them to evaluate how is this going. And that person doesn't have to necessarily be the boss. They just need to be one step ahead of the rest of the team. That could be one year longer in service. That could be that they have a skill set that's a little more advanced. They don't necessarily have to be their boss in order to coach. There's a great book that's called The Coaching Habit. I would encourage any supervisor, team leader, whether it's a formal or not, that they read, that helps you think about the questions that you ask in a one-on-one to support someone, that is helping them think through really their own answers and how to get better and execute more thoroughly and more strategically, there's some great questions in that book that help outline how to have some of those coaching conversations. But I think as a leader in a private Christian school, you have got to think about span of care. You've got to make sure that every staff member is well cared for, that has people that are speaking into them, into their career, into their contribution. And if you don't address this span of care thing, it's going to rest all on the leader's shoulders. And the reality is you're not going to know well enough what's happening in your staff's life in order to support them. And you're going to get spread way too thin, way too fast. And that's not good for anyone. So address the span of care in your team. Make sure that everybody has clear targets, that has healthy habits, that is deploying their strengths, and is regularly evaluating their progress as individuals in a team, and your team will be much happier and much better off.